that 9 trucks are not enough, and the 200 over 200 trucks that made it over the past days towards Gaza, although we do consider that it is still a positive step, but it's still not sufficient in comparison with the huge, immense needs that we are seeing among populations as they're struggling to access everything still. 25 days of fierce fighting, 25 days of violence, of terror for civilians, but most of all, it's 25 days without a minimal access to either safety, proper shelter, food, water, health, etc. So we do consider that it is a step forward, but it remains the responsibility of the parties to the conflict, the countries of influence, to work on a sustainable plan for further aid to be channeled in a sustainable way, of course, but also to take into consideration the actual needs of the populations and all of those needs. And of course, we as humanitarian actors, we do still the proper security guarantees in order for us to be able to work to deliver that aid without risking our own lives. And that is the responsibility of the parties to the conflict. There is no, it's not something that the ICRC or any humanitarian actor could deliver or could guarantee.
Given that food is running out, let me ask you about security and civil order. What's your information about how the community is dealing with that?
Could you develop more your question? I'm afraid that I might not have understood it properly.
Let me ask you, how is security in Gaza, given that the food is running out, and in particular around hospitals where many people are sheltering?
So the security-wise, I mean, when you talk to people on the field, on the ground, civilians, like regular people, people are saying that there is nowhere safe for them. There is a general feeling of lack of safety. I was talking to one of my colleagues who have been living in a shelter for the last 2 weeks, and one of the things that he would on the regular describe how atmosphere in those shelters is like. One of the things that he mentioned is that there is significant signs of distress, psychological distress, especially among children. There is signs of anxiety, bedwetting. People, grown-ups as well as children, are afraid for their own lives. Today we are seeing, we're witnessing the fact that families have nowhere to go. Most of the time they're in the streets. They're left. They're left. It's as if they're left by themselves and alone to figure out how to survive. People are finding shelters in hospitals, and yet even that is not guaranteed as in terms of safety. So today there is a responsibility that falls on the shoulders of the parties to the conflict to protect civilians, to grant them a dignified access to basic human needs, and first and foremost, to respect their legal obligation under international humanitarian law when it comes to civilian and civilian objects protection.
What items are seeing the most serious shortages, and how are doctors and medical teams managing without medicines?
Barely managing. We managed to enter 9 trucks consisting mainly of medical equipment, surgical equipment, which is it's very needed at the moment, as well as products to clarify water, such as chlorine tablets. The equipment that we managed to enter should cover the needs of up to 5,000 injured people. That is nothing compared to what the hospital actually needs. The hospital needs further equipment, further assistance, further human resources. And by the way, the ICRC also managed on Friday to our first team of war surgery specialists entered Gaza, as well as other types of specialists as of Friday. But that remains very little compared to the state of distress that the health sector is witnessing as we're speaking. The needs are high, the equipment are not there, human resources are fading as health staff are exhausted by constant pressure and increasing pressure. There is a need for more. But first and foremost, and there are things that we were not able to channel up until this moment, including, for instance, fuel, which is a very important point as it will keep hospitals running. So far, hospitals are not able to access additional stocks of fuel, which means that at any moment, the hospitals among the few hospitals actually who are still functioning in Gaza might stop activities completely. That means that babies in incubators might lose their life at any minute. People who need ventilation assistance might lose their lives at any minute. And this, again, we come back to the responsibilities to the parties to the conflict to take into consideration the real needs of the population, the real need to keep basic services running in such circumstances.